Institute of Practical Psychophysics has created an analog-free research equipment allowing to monitor condition of biological object by changes in wave characteristics of organism tissues, separate cells, chromosomal apparatus, and even enzymes and hormones. Numerous experiments which have been conducted by the Institute of Practical Psychophysics together with International Institute of Theoretical and Applied Physics that was headed by academician Anatoly Akimov have shown a close correlation between the torsion fields and biological systems, specifying that such fields are used in biological systems as the means of both extracellular and endocellular interaction. In simple words, Anatoly Akimov's theory of torsion fields, or terminal in accordance with classification of Theodor van Hoven, may be explained in the following way. Modern physics operates with these four levels of substance: solids, fluids, gases, and ionized elementary particles, plasma. Modern studies show that there is another level of reality exists: the torsion fields. According to modern concepts, electromagnetic fields are generated by charge, gravitational fields by mass, whereas the torsion fields are generated by spin, i.e. an angular operating torque. Just as any object with a mass creates a gravitational field, any rotating object creates a torsion field. Torsion fields have a number of unique properties. They transfer the information without transferring energy. They spread practically instantly to any distance, and they are not shielded by known environments. Besides, they have one more surprising property. They promote self-organization of substance, including living matter. The now available theoretical and experimental base of the torsion fields paradigm allows considering them as the same reality as electromagnetism and gravitation. Electromagnetic fields always contain a torsion component, which is an important fundamental factor. The torsion field will occur both in an electrostatic field and in an electromagnetic emission. Misunderstanding of this circumstance often resulted in that many phenomena generated by the torsion fields were vainly explained by the electromagnetic phenomena. So how the biological systems distinguish and recognize the necessary information from the background noise, and how the extracellular and endocellular communications occur? This refers to results achieved during long-standing studies by Russian scientists Pyotr Garyaev and Georgy Tertyshny. They have found that DNA molecules, chromosomes, and proteins are capable to generate coherent torsion emission, just like lasers. In other words, they are original torsion transmitters with a recustomized wavelength. At the same time, they act as receiving antennas. These very DNA properties ensure wave interchange of genetic information in an organism, significant part of which, as we have established, is stored in the chromosomal apparatus. The human body is one of the most complicated torsion systems. The complexity of its spatial frequency torsion field is determined by a tremendous set of chemical compounds in the organism and the complexity of their distribution therein, and also by the complex dynamics of biochemical metamorphosis in the course of interchanging. Each person can be considered as a source, generator, of a strictly individual torsion field. Each physically healthy person has a background right-hand torsion field. Extremely rarely, in people suffering from severe diseases, basically of the oncological nature, the field sign changes to the left. The background static torsion field of a healthy person has a significantly stable value. Non-linear NLS-diagnostics is based on a new physics of quantum entropic interactions, quantum entropic logic theory. These are the main postulates of this theory. The fact that information is a material category is acknowledged. Previously existing physical theories describing information interaction in environment information theory of Claude Shannon, cybernetics of Norbert Wiener, regarded information as some mathematical abstraction. They described basic laws of information exchange, but did not reveal its physical essence. Quantum entropic logic theory is the first theory revealing physical essence of information interaction and describing interaction of mass, energy, and information. Quantum entropic logic theory postulates: first, information is a material category, just like energy and mass of a system. Second, due to the fact that information is material, it follows the conservation law. Information cannot disappear without a trace or appear from nowhere. Total amount of information in a closed system, a system which does not exchange mass, energy, and information with environment, is a constant value. In 1923, Louis de Broglie, a young French nobleman, assumed that wave properties are typical not only for light, but for matter also. His arguments were that Einstein's equation 2 equals mc squared links mass with energy, but on the other hand, Einstein and Planck linked energy and wave frequency. Combining these two principles, one may conclude that mass should have wave incarnation also. Quantum entropic logic theory expands de Broglie conclusions to all material mediums, including information. It shows that information displays wave properties. Quantum entropic logic theory offered a formula for information wave radiation quantum, which links in with energy of a system through Planck constant. This formula links energy of any material system with level of its complexity, in other words, with level of its structural organization. Level of complexity, structural organization, is the same essential quality of any material system as mass and energy of this system. Information has even more universal character than mass, because a number of fundamental particles, such as photon and gluon, have no mass at all. But all material objects, with no exceptions, have more or less complex structure. That is why we probably should speak not about quantum wave dualism, but about triunity in description of material world, when information is included into equation together with mass and energy as a full member. Thus, quantum entropic logic theory postulates that information, like energy, is described by quantum equations. Also, it says that there is a physical field of information and physical particles, pheromones, able to carry information. Conclusions of quantum entropic logic theory are the following. First, any material object of biological or non-biological nature increases its level of structural organization when it absorbs information from environment. It becomes more complex and stable. Second, any material object of biological or non-biological nature decreases its level of structural organization when it loses information. Thus, it becomes less stable and more disorganized. For biological object, loss of structural organization information means worsening of adaptive behavior, development of diseases, and finally, death of an organism. Third, there is always information noise around any destructing object which loses information. The more intense destruction of biological object is, the more acute course of disease is registered and the higher level of information noise around that object. Therefore, if we measure level of information noise around biological object, we will be able to judge about degree of destruction speed in this object. And if we measure frequency properties of noise background, we will learn what tissues in an organism were destructed and changed more than others, because every tissue in a living organism has its specific radiated spectrum different from the others. Pheromones have two values of spin, clockwise, right, and counterclockwise, left. Therefore, torsion fields are divided into two types: right-hand polarized torsion of information field and left-hand polarized torsion of entropic field. Influence of right-hand polarized torsion of information field to any physical object including biological ones, improves level of its structural organization thanks to information saturation. Effect of left-hand polarized torsion or entropic field is related to worsening of structural organization of any material object due to loss of information. But why these fields influence differently to all material objects, including biological ones? The thing is that our universe is characterized by global asymmetrical distribution of material particles. In our world, negatively charged electrons prevail over positively charged positrons, and positively charged protons prevail over negatively charged hardons, which results in significant prevalence of matter over antimatter in our universe. Also, great prevalence of left-hand polarized particles, X-formons, over right-hand polarized particles, infirmons, is noted in the universe. Information exchange, expressed in amounts of information transferred from one system to another, may be relatively efficient only with more or less equal ratio of left-hand and right-hand polarized particles. It appears from this that the more right-hand polarized particles in a system are, the more information it can contain. Thus, information capacity of any system is directly related to increasing gradient of right-hand polarized information torsion field in relation to left-hand polarized entropic field. We cannot register torsion fields directly due to their great penetration power. We can judge about effect of torsion fields to a biological system by indirect signs. We already said that magnetic field is a component of torsion field. Torsion field, as we know, has two types of polarization: left hand and right hand. Magnetic field has two poles, north and south. In accordance with laws of quantum entropic logic, left-hand polarized torsion field will be generated around north magnetic pole. At the same time, right-hand polarized torsion field will be generated around south magnetic pole. Permanent magnet always has two poles, north and south. Where north magnetic pole is universal destructor, when it influences a system, it will lose information, and south magnetic pole, which in its turn will be the universal protector, accumulating information in a system. Therefore, all information processes influenced by a permanent magnetic field in any environment will have only one direction, from North Pole to South Pole. Any biological system, cells or tissues of an organism may be regarded as a cybernetic device. In accordance with cybernetics laws, a system will function if two signals are present, input and output. At the same time, we can be unaware about character of processes inside the system itself. In order to evaluate condition of the system, we should evaluate input and output signals of the system. In accordance with quantum entropic logic, input signal of a system related to receiving of information may be correlated with the fact of south magnetic pole. Output signal of a system related to loss of information with the fact of north magnetic pole. If a system is integral, level of noise in the system is closing to zero. So in this case, input and output signals will be relatively similar. If a system is in the stage of destruction, we will see a gap between input and output signals. It is called dissociation of a signal. The higher dissociation is, the higher level of information background noise around destroyed system and the higher speed and wider extent of system destruction. Frequency analysis of dissociation in graph spectrums allows us to understand what tissues are being destructed faster and extensively. According to quantum entropic logic theory by Nesterov van Hoven, the informational interchange between any systems is distant, associative and selective, because of the fact that oscillation quantum have the energy adequate to the energy of destruction of a link of an elementary system structure. The entropic logic theory provisions allow stating that in biological systems, at pathological processes, some unstable, metastable states may occur. at which the probability of system destruction increases greatly. The hardware-software system Metatron functions on the principle of amplifying of the initial signal at disintegration of metastable systems. From the physical point of view, Metatron represents a system of electronic oscillators resonating on a length of a wave, the energy of which is adequate to the energy of destruction of the predominant links supporting the structural architecture of the examined organism. The hardware-software system developed by the Institute of Practical Psychophysics generates the preset biometric activity of neutrocytes of brain, amplify selectively the signals, usually hardly noticeable against statistical functions, and finally, to retrieve and decode the information containing in them. Equipment, in a certain manner, takes the bearings of such emissions by place of their origin in order to decode and record them on a computer screen, where a virtual model of an organ is created in certain colors. If in accordance with the quantum chromokinetics, one of the sections of quantum entropic logic theory, you preset entropy values of any system as colors of spectrum, such colors will vary from light yellow at minimum entropy values through orange to red and purple, almost black at maximum entropy values. Finer theoretical calculations allow to single out a number of stationary conditions corresponding to a certain entropy potential related to a severity of biological system affection. Computer models give us a multidimensional image of internal organs in any required perspective. The color geometric icons placed in the image allows us to locate pathological process on a model of an organ. By comparing the color gamma of the icons and their location in the computer model of an organ, and also their change dynamics, one can judge about the processes of destruction of biological structures and give health condition forecasts. In order to specify the pathology area, a user investigates multidimensional and scalable models of organs rendered by a computer on a screen until he localizes a pathological locus with the utmost accuracy. The basic idea at the development of this equipment was the hypothesis that the human body has a torsion informational skeleton, capable to react to the effects of an external emission. In 1950, Reinhold Voll in Germany discovered and developed an electrical testing system based on the acupuncture points of a human body. Voll's method was the first hardware method of organisms' energo-informational condition testing. It was carried out by reading of electromagnetic conductivity values from endpoints of acupuncture meridians of a human body using a probe. Results of a study, in terms of digital and graphical indices, can give a notion of inflammatory, dystrophic or atrophic pathology presence in a studied meridian and corresponding organs. Unlike the false electropuncture diagnostics method, where the energy potentials of the organs and systems are measured by bioactive points, which indirectly and often with a significant error mirror an organ's condition, which nonlinear diagnostics developed by the Institute of Practical Psychophysics, the evaluation of the organ's condition is done immediately based on the resonant amplification of investigated organ's emission and reading the parameters non-contactly by using trigger sensors. Each organ and each cell have their own inherent specific oscillations, which are stored in the computer memory and can be displayed on screen as a certain diagram, which specifies the conditions of informational interchange of an organ or tissue. Any pathological process also has its inherent individual diagram. The computer memory contains a significant amount of pathological processes with the allowance of the degree of manifestation, age, sexual and other variations. Having taken the frequency characteristics from a biological subject, the research equipment can compare them by magnitude of spectral similarity with reference processes, healthy and pathologically changed tissues, infectious agents, and reveal the closest pathological process or tendency to its development. In case of combined processes, the virtual diagnostics mode allows performing differential diagnostics of each process. Quantitative evaluation of vectors, realization of right and left-hand polarized spins, in other terms of input and output signal, and the character of their interaction within a specific object makes possible to evaluate a level of the object's internal entropy, and to model all possible phase states, from the most stable to the most unstable, expressing it in terms of statistical coefficients.